I would say, just looking at it myself.
Oh, wait a minute, I gotta do my slides. Here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to September. It's September 2024. The weather certainly has changed recently, hasn't it?
Change next one too.
Although next week, on Monday, it's supposed to be like 91 again. So, yeah, not as fun as I'd hope, right?
Yeah.
Weather-wise. Use a clicker.
That's the one from over there?
No, it's mine.
We just, yeah, I can say I didn't.
Okay, do you have any guests tonight?
Well, I
I have a
guess,
first time member here for the
It's
first
my first
time.
time.
It is. Well, tell us about yourself.
My name is Josh Sheldon, son of Mark and Cynthia Sheldon. Didn't really, okay, I'd like astronomy, but not as much as Cynthia until my Morrison, much appreciate, lent us the Sea Star, and now I'm just way more interested because of that. And for that, yeah, much thanks.
Thank
And
you.
we are gonna have more family coming. They are from Kentucky. They're gonna be here. They'll be late. But
Okay.
my daughter Catherine and her husband and their son and my sister Jennifer and my cousin Angie should all be here.
Wow.
What part of Kentucky are they from?
Eastern Kentucky, London,
Okay.
and Central Kentucky.
Was there one over here? Welcome. Yes?
It's my second time being here.
Yeah, second time.
Second time, so I just decided to come. I work sales now, so normally I don't have Friday nights off, so I came 4 years ago, right after COVID started, actually.
Wow.
March of 2020, and then it kind of went silent, and so did
Well, that
I.
was the big presentation that night.
Yeah.
It was NASA, I think, that night.
Presentation.
I think it was someone from NASA here, but anyway, it's good to be back.
Cool.
Good to have you back.
Anyone else? Maybe this person right here? Come on in.
Yeah.
You looking for astronomy?
Found it.
Oh, it's your time to speak. Welcome.
He became a member a couple of years ago.
A couple months ago. Oh, I see. Okay.
That's Chad Resnick.
Chad.
done. I joined you at the Star Party in August,
Oh, okay.
July. As not knowing anything, and my husband was not there, and anyway, we're gonna see if we wanna start this journey or not.
There was a lot of knowledge in this room. More than willing to help any questions you have.
I was gonna start stargazing, but now the mosquitoes have malaria in them, so I don't know what to do.
That's impossible.
More bug spray.
Well,
Oh,
the colder months might be better then.
yes, no poison ivy, no mosquitoes. I understand.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cool for Valentine.
We got 4. Is there any guests online? Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and more. 5 and 6 people are on Zoom right now. That must be 7. That's just me. Well, that's you? All right.
Double dipper.
So if you decide to become a member of OAS, you also be a member of the Astronomical League. They're a nationwide organization that promotes astronomy and has several member chapter organizations around the country. They publish the Reflector Quarterly magazine. If you do participate in an AL League sponsored observing program, they actually put your name in that little booklet right there. There's what the reflector looks like right there. You'll have access to our dark sky site near Weeping Water, Nebraska. There's a lot of us there in the last couple weeks. It's been quite a fun time. We do have a telescope loan program where you can try out telescopes, observe, kind of see what different ones are like and how big they are, how small they are. And if you really want to buy something that big and we're wanting to buy something smaller, et cetera, et cetera. Or not even buy a telescope at all, just check it out every so often and go that route. We do have our monthly newsletter, the Stella. Do I have that up at the moment? I do not. I need to use that. But that comes out every month. And it's got a lot of information, good articles, and especially is around us at the meeting times that may have changed. Like this last summer, we had to make some changes due to holidays and such. So we kind of published that in there. And members can vote on motions, and we do have a Discord server too. So there's a lot of information that goes through on those. Some upcoming important dates. The fall picnic for OAS is coming up on the 28th at Astro Park.
Door prizes.
Door prizes?
There will be door prizes.
There will be door prizes.
Astro Park.
It's down near Weeping Water.
Oh,
We'll have more on that soon. And then, of course, a preview of the rest of our outreach is coming up later in this meeting, which goes through October. So the Fall Star Party and Picnic is gonna happen at Astro Park there in Weeping Water. OAS will provide the buns and the meat dish. If you wish to bring your own main entree item, you can, or please bring a side. So you can, there's an RSVP there. That's what this little emblem is to RSVP. So that we all kind of know what's gonna happen. If it's raining or there's severe weather, we will cancel it. But if you've never gone out to Astro Park before, this is a good time to go because it'll be light out. You can find your way or ask for help when you're down there rather than trying to go there when it's dark. There are some people who do go down there when it's dark, but if it's the first time, I would not recommend it just because of the way the trees are located and stuff. It gets pretty dark. We do have a mention of our Mid-States region, which we are a part of. They have a groups IO page where members from the region kind of do some chatting. We are also a member of the Night Sky Network through JPL. And sometimes we find members through that resource as well. There is an OAS fan shop that you can click on for club information. So when you click on club information and click on fan shop, you can get shirts. I see a red shirt right there. I see a pink shirt back there. I'm not wearing one tonight. I didn't want to mess it up at work. So I'm wearing my Apollo shirt tonight. Boy, did we have a lot of people at Astro Park last month. And to do that, if you'll give me a moment, I can find the right window. We go up here to Astro Park. We actually do have people at Astro Park right now. And they actually took a picture of the logbook. Ooh, that's pretty big. But there's quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Boy, that's September. I know there was a lot more than that, so I'm gonna say around 14. There were 11 of us on Sunday night down there.
Oh, yeah, we never.
Last Sunday night.
John,
I know you were there. Yes, sir.
Where's the logbook located? I
Um,
never, there was a logbook.
so it's something we started a few years ago. And I gotta get back to my slides here. I'll show you what it looks like. How about that? So, this little guy, Mike built, and there's a notepad in it with some pencils, and that's like logging in through this. And tonight, I even made a Google form version. So if people are using the phone, they could log in that way too. So there was a suggestion about one of the people at Astro Park last week, so I asked them to try it out. So we'll see how it goes. That way, I don't have to ask them, can you send us a picture of what it looks like? Because we'll have it in a spreadsheet that way. Do we have any awards tonight?
We do not have any awards tonight for the new people. If you're a member, that also means you're eligible to participate in the awards programs with the Astronomical League. There are all kinds of awards programs, from basic ones where you're just like observing things on the moon, to constellations, and then also more advanced awards programs. So there's something for everybody. You should definitely check it out and see if there's anything that looks interesting to you. Also, please stay tuned for our outreach folks who are gonna tell you about outreach events. You can get an outreach award if you spend, it's like 10 hours, but you have to have, it's 2 hours minimum per event. So if you get just 10 hours, 5 events minimum, you can get an outreach award. So just so you are aware.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Observing chair. Oh, I have your thing even somewhere. The switch on the top.
Great. Here we are, September
You didn't split
2020.
the switch.
I'll try that again. Here we are, September 2024. We have a lot of planets to look at. There's of course Jupiter, which rises close to midnight. Saturn has its opposition on September 8th. For new folks, what that means is it's opposite the sun compared to on the other side of the sun, if you're on one side of the sun. And that's that little diagram, obviously not to scale. So it's visible all night, and it's one of the best times to see it. Of course, the rings are reaching an edge on just because of how the Earth is in its orbit in relationship to the plane of Saturn's orbit. And they will be really edge on 2025. So it's a different sight than what we're used to looking at the rings.
I've actually already seen articles like, the rings are gonna disappear. Like, that's poor reporting and headlines.
Well, it garners interest is how I'm gonna spin that positive.
Oh, there you go.
Literally spin. Anyway.
Nah.
Neptune in the evening, and that has its opposition on September 20th, same concept. And if you're new to finding Neptune and Uranus, you have certain landmarks right there. Saturn is really close to Neptune, well, really isn't relatively. And Uranus is close to the Pleiades, and these are both binocular objects in dark skies. Venus, you can see it in the evening and a few hours after sunset. It's close to the sun, so if you're trying to look at it, please be careful and don't aim your binoculars to the sun. If you want anything else after that. We have the full moon on the 17th, new moon was September 2nd. We do have a partial lunar eclipse on the 17th, and it's from 9, this is the umbral one, so I did not include the penumbral times, otherwise it starts somewhere after around 7:40 p.m. But maximum eclipse is from 9:12 p.m. to 10:15 p.m. And that's the link to time and date, which shows the exact times and the hyper.
Oops. This one?
Yes, that one. And a little animation.
Sorry. I know it opened somewhere. do this, copy paste. You think I wouldn't have technology problems, but even me has technology problems. And this is what I do for a living. Okay. I apologize, everybody.
All good.
That is not what I was. That's better.
Okay. So that's the little animation, and you can also go to this website, it's time and date, and it usually does a really good job of animations. So this is a partial, it's not total, so you may not see the whole big red thing that everybody wants to see. It might be slight, you'd have to look for it really carefully.
Yeah, so there's the,
Yeah, it's just a small portion.
that's maximum, just right there, so. It's,
So you'd have to watch really carefully. You're not gonna see the red moon that everybody, talks all over the internet. It's just that little sliver up top in this particular view. So that's coming up September 17th, and actually on the morning of September 17th, and I did not put that in here, some parts of the world will see an occultation of Saturn by the moon, but we're not gonna see that in Omaha. We're just going to see it come really close. And by the time you even try to see that, the moon is almost 2-3 degrees near the horizons. You're barely going to see that unless you have a really clear horizon. And that's going to be in just before sunrise. So that might be hard to see. This is a few other events. I think this is for, if I'm not mistaken, this is for the moon on,
sorry, I can, let me try this again. It's in the background, what? There.
so this is at 2144, and there's the moon. I think this
It's
is,
Neptune,
it's next to Neptune.
there's
And
Saturn.
then Saturn. So this is, I've actually forgotten why I put this in here. I was taking screenshots. So there's one thing you need to look at 2144.
This is time and date still,
No, this is from Stellarium.
still there, okay.
It's
Yes.
on the 17th.
This is on the 17th. So I'm sorry, this is actually for that partial lunar eclipse, but it's not really visible in this Stellarium view. And I think I didn't take that slide out. That's all it is. Okay, the next one is, since I like comets and quasars, we'll do comets. So comet C 2023 Sushinshan or Atlas is going to be visible in the AM sky now, but in October it's visible in the evening sky. And if it gets really bright, that everyone keeps predicting it might, but we all know not to keep our hopes up till that actually happens. Right now, it's really early in the morning sky, and by the time you look at it, the sun rises, so you're not really getting a good view of that. But what you can see now is C2021 S3 Pan stars, and that's in Cygnus. I think the next slide, I picked a random date to show where, this is for Atlas. As you can see, by the time it even clears 5 degrees of the horizon, the sun is already up, so you're not gonna see that much in September. I picked 9:15 and you can see it's already 7:31. The next slide I think should be,
This,
yeah,
The Atlas.
This is for October. As you can see, it's the 19th of October and it's pretty high in the sky. Close to Ophiuchus on this particular night. So that would be something to look forward to in October. Of course, if it brightens as predictions are as they go, then that'll be something spectacular. And this is just for Pan-STARRS, which is right there at one of the wings of Deneb. You can see the little red cursor towards the other end. This is visible now. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get back to where I once belonged.
It's there somewhere.
I guess I think it's outreach.
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 Tag team, we're good.
It's cool.
Okay.
We find that big sign up list too to have up here while you're talking.
Okay, first of all, there was an event. No, I didn't turn it on. Okay. The outreach page and the newsletter missed one. I put it out in my email spam earlier in the week, that we have a Lawrenson event tomorrow night. And at this point, I think Sonali is the only one that signed up.
These are usually a fun event. There's about 20 people kind of capped at typically. Drive out to the Rose Garden, set up telescope, they come look for about an hour and a half or so, and then they get back on their little trolley and roll away.
I do need more people to sign up because my friend just told me as I was driving here that they advertised it on TV.
It gets a lot of, yeah,
Okay,
it gets a
looks like I know
lot
where I'm at
of,
tomorrow night.
a lot of publicity. The thing is, they limit it
About 20.
to about 25 max, and you go on their website, Lawrence website. I've had people come up, well, I can never get signed up because they wait, it's probably people, sign up 2 or 3 months ahead of time to get to them. So we definitely need at least 3 people. 2. So are you up for it? Okay.
Awesome.
Austin, okay.
Sunset.
7:30 is what I said in that email, because I think they were advertising 8 to 10, so we like to get there about 7:30. And then, that gives us time to get out back to the Rose Garden. It is a kind of a fun play. The skies are horrible, I have to admit, but
This is a pretty easy outreach.
this is a pretty easy outreach. A lot of really interested
Yeah,
people.
they're usually engaged.
Engaged, questions.
Good, yeah, they don't care if they don't usually care if you don't have a lot to show them. They just
We
wanna
should-
talk and see.
We should have a crescent moon still high enough for,
Venus, probably.
in Venus. And if they hang around late enough, Saturn maybe in the east would be.
Yeah, if you get around.
Okay, so that's all for this week. Now, we're in the full swing of the Napoleon La Vista outdoor education events out at the Camp Carol Joy Hauling. It's out by Ashland, just north of where the Sac Museum is. First of all, how many, well, the new one's probably, how many of you see my emails? I get the impression sometimes that people just let them go to spam. Oh, okay, that's better than I thought.
They do automatically go into my spam folder.
But you go look for
But I can look for them. correct.
Okay.
I don't know what about yours versus.
He uses
Stella one.
BCC, so
It's
sometimes
a
that,
blind copy, that's how I do it. I'm old fashioned, I never set
that's
up.
what
a-
we should be doing.
That's probably what we should be. I mean, we could set up a MailChimp thing, but I'm an old dog, I just, it's easy for me. I take Mike's list and I just grab the emails and I throw them into.
Add him to your contact list when John sends a message.
So anyway, I will have information out on that. Kim, yes.
So a negative response would help.
Even negatives help. Well, okay. I'm not that concerned, yeah.
If you've been coming like regularly and you're not gonna come all of a sudden, that would be nice, you know, if you like have been two Mondays in a row and then all of a sudden you're not able to,
Okay.
that would be nice to let us know. Just so, because otherwise we might just have in our heads that
Right.
Kim does Mondays, you know.
So we're into
What, John?
Monday nights and Wednesday nights all this month. Will be 9 events through September. Actually, there'll be one on probably before we have our October meeting, right?
That's up.
And I have a sign up sheet there again,
For
old
the-
dog,
for
old
the old
ideas.
school.
Feel free to sign up. When is our next?
You wanna pass that or just?
Our next
see
meeting?
around If anyone wants to sign up for any of those?
October 4th.
Oh, that's right, they skipped, that's, yeah, teacher conferences, so yeah, we'll have another meeting in October to twist some more arms, so basically try to get September.
They're real easy, they're real short, events. The space is really nice. There's decent dark sky, so if you wanna stay after, they don't care. And you can, do your own, you know, observing afterwards. It's just a little bit past Mahoney, off that exit. And you'll go there, they'll have maybe 60 kids. They'll have 2 or 3 groups, so either like 2 groups of 30 or 3 groups of 20 or however they're divided up. And they each come through for like 15 to 20 minutes
Yeah.
per group.
I
They
mean,
don't-
they don't give us a whole lot of time,
Real
but
wham bam thank you ma'am stuff.
we're trying to light some sparks.
But the ones that, you know,
Yes.
some kids that could give to, you know, whatever's. But there are definitely some kids that you can tell know more than you about certain things, because they've just been obsessing over space for, you know, the last 8 years of their life or whatever.
It's fun to find those.
And it's really
They're
rewarding
just
when you get those.
looking for information and they love it. So anyway, that's the big push for the month of September. Now, we have some other events down the road here in the month. Well, first of all, we got our public night next Tuesday, the 10th, so out at Lake Zorinsky. So if it's a decent night, you're all welcome to come out.
We
there.
have, yeah, POV Monday.
Yep.
Zerinsky Tuesday, POV Wednesday, Mahoney Friday,
That's right.
UNO.
International Observer of the Moonlight on Saturday.
So
Next week's busy, so.
if
guys
you
wanna
can't
help out,
find
that's-
something to, yeah, come out and help us. Really, it can be a lot of fun and it's it's in reach too. It's meeting you and learning your backgrounds and interests and everything too.
And
So,
if you, there's everybody in this room knows enough about astronomy
Yes.
to do outreach, I
Yes.
guarantee it.
I'll double that,
Absolutely.
yeah, because if you can go find the Big Dipper, that's more than, at least like these kids out there, yeah. They're just, oh, there's a Big Dipper, and then you show them how to find the North Star and, hey, you made their night, so.
And if you come and you can listen to other people talk about what they talk about and you'll pick up stuff and then.
That's right, Waterloo, okay,
So there's the International Observer of the Moon Night here at UNO on the.
On the
14th of
14th.
September. And then Waterloo Days is the postponement.
That's right.
This is the redo for this on the September 22nd.
on Sunday afternoon, the 22nd, with some solar, viewing and demonstrations and what have you,
And probably cooler weather.
cold weather. And, should we mention the?
Cosmos and Cocktail?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, gosh, yes.
On Saturday, September 21st at UNO in Lincoln at Morrill
UNO.
Hall. Where they're having an event called Cosmos and Cocktails. Cosmos and Cocktail. Yeah, so there's some kind of bartending setup. You can order drinks, you can walk around the museum. I think they're gonna do planetarium shows. We're gonna have a small booth there to promote the stuff that we do. And
Now, to the general public, they're gonna charge an admission. But if you're identifying yourself as an Omaha Astronomical Society member, or you are on the Nebraska Star Party Planning Committee, you get in and of course, you gotta show up to the booth and act like you're doing.
yeah, you have to help out. You have to help out for at least.
You gotta help out for at least.
At least long enough for me to go
Yeah.
to the bar and get a drink.
That's right. So it's an adults only thing. It'd be kind of fun. It'd be fun.
I think, let me pull this up.
$25 in person.
I think if you just want to show up and not be.
If you don't want to be bothered with outreach, $25, $35, something like that
Something
per
like that.
person. Might be cheaper if you're a member that they have a membership at the museum. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's at the State Museum, yeah.
Yeah, they're on the campus is.
I believe this is what the PDF is for the event.
Yes.
I didn't know if she'd send a new one since this was the, please approve this. So there's our logo down there with our other friends as
So,
well.
yeah, your admission gets you, one free drink ticket, you get appetizers, there's a live planetarium show. And you get to hang out at a museum without kids getting in your way.
A night at the museum?
And night at the museum.
Please come alive.
Cynthia.
Cynthia.
It'll be a work day at Astro Park. that
Yes, the
day?
21st.
That's the same day as the workday.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Okay, still happening.
go early and then drop over to Lincoln for the party.
You'll be that much closer.
You
Just
will.
work on shower first.
You'll be about halfway.
I guess is that enough?
Yeah, I think that's,
We got
I
plenty.
mean, all those POV events.
And I'll be bugging you with emails. Now, if you don't want to see my emails, just send me a note back says, please take me off your list. I would hate you, I hate that you would do that to us. I'll probably hate on you too, but
That's a Freudian slip.
yeah. Didn't that turn out hate on somebody?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Thank you.
Anyway.
So I will say, yes, there is a Astro Park work day on the 21st. It's a Saturday, so that's in the morning at 10 a.m. Till we have to either leave or everybody's tired of it. So we're gonna be taking out some bushes that are in some small trees, as well as trying to finish up our fence project. So it'll be fun. If you have a chainsaw, make sure your chainsaw is sharpened. I gotta get a couple chains for mine, so it'll be opportunity.
One of the things that this outreach for September is a lot, but next month is much lighter, so.
This is our month.
It's just, yeah, this is the
Right
one.
fall.
big
The
one
biggest month of the year. Yep.
by far.
And I guess we forgot to mention, they quote donate, well, I twist.
Each club donates,
Donate.
yes.
I mean, each school donates. And so far, we've gotten 3 for 3 donations with the 3 events we've had already, so.
Yep.
It's one of the, bigger revenue streams or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it for outreach.
This is technically a STEM activity. So if we're all about STEM and education in our community, that's a very big thing to do. Oh, there you are. I didn't see you come in. Stafford, telescope and binocular loan. Can we just walk this over to you?
Well, unlike the outreach committee, there has been no returns or no checkouts this month since, at least since the Star Party. There's quite a bit of activity prior to it, though. So let's see what the list looks like. This is strange. My list and yours agree.
I copied it out of the Stella.
They all agree. This is definitely eerie, but anyway, it's been a slow month for scope loans, so. And that's about the extent of my report.
Thank you. Cynthia. Mark. I have a slide and I forgot to put it in.
That's okay, cause I don't know. We went to the zoo today, so I'm.
Well,
in and hurt.
if you talk, I will try to put it in. How about that?
Oh, sounds good. I have no idea what's coming up next because I wasn't told, but we had a fun time, week or so ago at the Fat Putter. Played miniature golf with, there was a few of us, Mike and Carmen and I'm just drawing a blank, who else was there? Josh and myself and, yeah, Chris, yep, Lee. It was fun. Coming up, we're still thinking some suggestions for. It'll be right around November, usually we do a quarterly inReach fun thing, there is a. For members on Discord, we have a channel down there, or whatever it's called, I'm not hip with that.
Social outings channel.
Social outings channel,
Put
yeah.
that up on the screen.
Cool beans right there, and you can see our group picture from the Fat Putter. And if you have what we've been calling impromptu events, things that come up that you feel like others might want to go to, whether it's a new movie coming out or something's lecturer someplace or whatever, it's just a way for us to be social together and come together more often as a group and get to know everyone a little bit better. And that's it. Oh, you got this one back, won't you?
Thank you. Let's see. That would be Mr. Librarian.
So we have part of George Allen's collection that his estate left for us. There are so many books that at this point we're doing free will donations. I've already pulled aside ones that we're gonna wanna stick into our library cart. So please take a look over there. If anything strikes your fancy, you can either give a free will donation to myself or Mike Gallagher. And yeah, it'd be much appreciated. And we usually have a cart where you can check out books, but that didn't make it out of the office tonight. That's all right. We'll make do. We got plenty of options. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Oh, tonight's program is gonna be an interesting one. As you can tell, there's show and tell sitting up here. What could it be? We're gonna do a tool time first, Mike. This is where I talk about the program coming up.
The preview.
It's a preview. But yeah. It's judging by how much equipment is here. I'm starting to nerd out because you know I like computers and stuff and telescopes. So it would be a lot of fun. Yeah, see, even there's agreement in the back. Let's see. I don't. Hey, so there's a time real quick. Bill, do you want to come up?
Okay, let's see. For those of you who don't know who George and Jody Allen were, I feel sorry for you. George knew everybody. And George knew everything. He was a stack of newspapers away from being a hoarder.
Yep.
With Jody now being in a memory care facility down in Columbia, they are in a point where they are trying to get rid of all of his astronomy equipment, and it is a ton. So scroll down a little bit, so we'll just kind of, there's a really nice 12.5-inch obsession that we are, I just cleaned the mirror on this. It was pretty filthy, but the mirror came out really nice. It's an OMI mirror. I don't have any other information on the obsession, but there is also a, what is it?
There's the plaque. Does that have like a number?
Yeah, it's like number 1805 from 2011. There is, the Questar. I know there's some interest in the rooms already, and I talked to some folks down in Kansas City. George was a member of, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 clubs at least. The Evansville Club, the Kansas City Club, the Omaha Club. And there is just all kinds of equipment. There are several criterions. There's a C14 that's been outside under plastic. There's the Tinsley Lab, which is quite a telescope. There's a Jaeger. refractor. What is that, a 6-inch?
6 inch, 150 millimeter, but it's an F-15, so the darn tube's like 12 feet long.
Yeah, it's, but you know, if you want to look at, the planets,
You aren't gonna handhold that.
that one would be amazing. There's also all kinds of, and George was, you know, there's all kinds of small scopes, 60 millimeter, 75 millimeter. There is a C5 spotting scope. There is a 5.5-inch Celestron Schmidt camera. I know George took that one down to Australia with them. He made that little telescope there on the right, at 108 millimeter homemade. George was an Omaha police officer, and he would take that in his squad car with him. And when there was nothing going on, 25, 30 years ago, he would set that up on his squad car and do some observing out there. So there are the criterions, the 4, the 6, there's all kinds of mounts. And there's this little guy down here too. And that's what, about a 5-inch wide field?
Yeah, I didn't see that when I was over there. I think it's an old Jaeger's 5-inch F5 lens, yeah.
Okay.
Lens.
But, there really is, there's all kinds of equipment, there's, you know, bags and boxes of filters. George was not one of these guys that was so much into, teleview eyepieces and stuff like that. He was a, Erfel and Brandon's and other things like that. Go back up to if you need a really nice mount, there's a Buyer's 812. That thing is probably 6.5, 7 feet tall on that post. There's a couple of nice tripods. There's, scroll down a little bit. And there are all those, mounts and drives. There's a Criterion mount, AC drive. And there's, you know, just all kinds of things. George had a machine shop in his barn and would make all kinds of things. So there's a lot of unique stuff. If you need a finder scope, there's a box full of them. There's all kinds of small scopes. And again, this is gonna be available to OAS and Kansas City members, anybody who wants to come over to their house over the next week. I'm off this next week, so I'm gonna be helping to prepare for an auction. They're gonna have an auction on September 15th, that's a Sunday. And that is going to be, you know, do you need a van that's set up to be an Astro van? Do you need a 1990 Chevy Caprice? What is that, 63 Skylark
Yeah.
that Jody has? And then there's a pickup truck that they have. Do you need a John Deere tractor? Do you need one of 2 boats? You know, like I said, George was, you know, a stack of newspapers away from being a hoarder. So, you know, there's some nice binoculars out there. So if you are interested, we'll get you the address for their house. You can have my phone number, give me a text. If you want to write it down, my phone number is 402-289-7861. And if you want to come talk to me afterwards, do that too. But there's, you know, if you want to just come out and look at stuff, you know, it just goes on and on and on. But, again, we're trying to get rid of all this stuff. Again, the place that Jody is in is quite expensive and we're doing this for her so she can, you know, stay where she is without having any problems. So that's all I have about that.
You're in, bring a pocket full of cash.
Bring a cash or check, they'll take checks too. So, again, if you want to get more information, I will be more than happy to help you with that. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you guys for all your work helping Jody out with this. Do you want a tool time?
Quick little thing.
Do you have a presentation?
Yeah, I'll share.
All right.
John?
Yes, sir.
Quick clarification on
The floor recognized.
my little
Red
red
pencil? Yeah.
Yeah, my screwdriver. I've somehow was told that I said this was available at Menards for $3. It's not, it's $1. And right now it's 55 cents.
55 cents. Oh,
And it
wow.
has all kind of capabilities.
You don't need that? All right, I'll walk away. with it.
That's my clarification.
Douglas. Hello, Douglas. It's been a long time. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Wait for Mike to take over the screen. I wonder who's traveled the farthest to be here tonight. We got Kentucky, right? Yeah. How about anyone else farther?
They win.
They win? Oh, I see. That's right. Okay. Do you want,
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up. I don't care who talks about it.
do you want me to talk about you? Sure. Okay.
I don't want to talk about myself.
You already had that part, right? So in the November issue of Sky and Telescope magazine, there's an article about Austin here, talking about spectroscopy. So our own club members got a note in there talking about your, now, how long ago did you start your journey on this?
Well, that was about January of this year.
January of this year?
I think she said it's been doing it for 2 years, but it's not true.
Only since January. Well, writers can choose, right?
No, the article is really about getting amateurs involved with real science and perhaps collaborating with professionals and working with organizations like the AAVSO or other amateur societies. That's really what it's less than, hey, look at this guy, he's so good at this, because really it's a deep well of
So what are you using to do your observations?
So really, I'm using an SA 100. It's an 1.25" filter that you put in front of a little guide camera. And that just spreads out the spectrum of a star, and it's fairly low resolution. I've been working with a new instrument that I'm not quite getting good data quality out of yet. It's called a Star Explorer. It's like a very high resolution instrument, but it's all 3D printed. So I'm getting into that, and AAVSO has been really a big part of getting into that. So if anyone wants to go down that rabbit hole with me, I will gladly get you up to speed.
All right. That's awesome. Oops, I turned it off. That's awesome. Awesome.
Did everybody who wanted to have a chance to sign up on the sheets?
Perfect. Should we have a, what time is it? Let's do a 10-minute break. And then we'll start the presentation.
Perfect.
Great. Thank you.
Please take a look at the books. I don't want to lug them home.
Hello. We're gonna start.
Very generous, thank you, Mike. Hans said we're gonna start.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Found it with authority.
Yeah. Okay, so we're muted over here because the thing doesn't change it, right? It's still on his screen. It should go to, not shared screen, but I'm saying the person on the screen should be the person who's got the last sound. Why is this picture not here?
Because it's not, because this is nice.
Okay. Oh, okay, yeah, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Criterion Dynascope, West Star.
Time to rock and roll.
Ready to go? And then. Okay, so I'm Mike Global. I'll give you a little history about myself. Sorry, I'll stop yelling too. I'll give a little history of myself. So I got into astronomy as a kid with the Kmart special. Back then it was probably the $25 Hobby Killer telescope that you got from Kmart. For those younger people, that was what they had before Walmart. So I kind of got out of photography or out of astronomy for a while, and then I set up for the 2017 eclipse. I had 20 people going, everything organized. I took a trip out west to get a spot in York, in Geneva, Nebraska, on the runways out there. Had everything set up, and then my wife had a bike accident doing the corporate cup, and I was in the trauma center with her, and I missed it. So in punishment, I bought an expensive mount. At that time, it was $800. It's now a $1,200 mount. And I bought a telescope that I thought was good, which was another $400. And then I used it a little bit. And then I didn't touch it for a long time. And then I retired and I got into photography or astronomy because I could like stay up all night. So that was kind of cool. So I got into it and then started buying a whole bunch of stuff. And anyway, it's probably over my head. So I have about a year of experience. I went to the Star Party last year. Sadly, with a family matter, I wasn't able to make the Star Party this year. But I've been doing this for about a year. I love tinkering. I love photography. If you guys don't start asking questions and I go too fast, I'll start talking about my other hobby, beekeeping and inseminating queen bees, but that's a whole nother thing if you don't ask enough questions. So anyway, so we'll focus on the astronomy part here. So what I'm trying to get into, so in astronomy, what I found is, and as a kid with the equipment that I had, was all about visual photography or astronomy. And then as I got older, it's like, hey, I like this photography thing. I've got a lot of camera equipment and I like tinkering with electronics and figuring things out, and I like automating things. So that got me more into the astrophotography. So for those that are not really familiar, there's the visual astronomy thing. You're taking a telescope and you're pointing it. The good thing about visual astronomy is you learn the skies. You learn how to find things. And then there's astrophotography, which is when you get into cameras and all the techniques to get these really brilliant pictures that you always see plastered on walls and on web pages and that type of stuff. And then there's a spawn off of astrophotography called EAA, electronically assisted astrophotography. And that would be something similar to the C-STAR, things where you can actually see them as it's astrophotography, but you actually get to see it develop. As you could get to see everything build as the night progresses. And that's what you see with something like the C-STAR, and we'll talk about that a little bit here. So what I'm trying to do here today, let me go ahead and pull my slides up, and if anybody has a question, whether online or not, or if I'm saying something and pointing at these telescopes and you can't see it because you're online, just tell me and I'll turn the slides back off, because I have a lot of equipment up here I'd like to show also. So I'm going to share slides to start. I think this will work. Okay, so what I'm going to do is talk about stepping into astrophotography and EAA affordably. That's what I'm trying to get into here. So we're not talking too much about visual, but we'll talk a little bit about visual photography. So again, when I say affordably, you don't want to go so cheap it kills the hobby for you. And then you don't want to go so expensive that you go broke. Everything that I'm going to show here is how to step up. And I brought two mounts with me today. I was gonna bring another one, but it's like 40 pounds and it wouldn't fit in the wagon with these other ones, so, but I have bigger ones and I'll show pictures of those too. So the idea here is to, if you don't know what's going on with astrophotography, or you think it's super complicated, which it doesn't have to be, just basically a stepping stone on where to start. What telescope or OTA, optical tube assembly, do you want to start with? And then which direction might you want to grow? And the first step in growth might be that you really need a bigger mount. Like, for example, this one holds 11 pounds, and the two options that I have up here today that I'll be talking about will easily fit on either of these mounts. But if you wanted to get into something a little bit bigger, because everybody believes bigger is better, I'll try and dispel a little bit of that today. But if you want to get into something bigger, you're going to need a bigger mount. But I can put these little things on a big mount. I can't put a big OTA on a little mount. So again, depending on where your funds are, where you want to step in, how you want to grow, that's what I'm going to try and walk through today. So what this presentation is again, I'm going to present what I believe is affordable astrophotography, a rig that you can assemble yourself for astrophotography, and electronic assisted astrophotography, and I'll show that here in the slides. And I'm going to try and demonstrate how the things you can change, add, grow, either get a second one or just grow from a smaller mount to a bigger mount, from one optical tube assembly to another, using DSLR type cameras to using astronomy dedicated cameras, and the different ways that you could go. And again, each of those obviously come at an expense. And as we all know, astronomy is not necessarily a cheap hobby, but hopefully it'll be within your budget. So this presentation is not detailed assembly. I'm willing to have a conversation at any time. Call me. I'll leave my email address up here. You can have my phone number if you want. I'm willing to help set up something like this if this is something you want to get into at this level. I can walk in and tell you the pros and cons and why I chose what I chose, but you may have different opinions and different reasons that you want to go slightly different. So it's, again, this also will not be the detailed procedures, but I will walk you through what you're getting with the assembly. Obviously, part of what we have is we're inside. If we were all standing outside, I could plug this thing in and I could stand here with my iPad and we could do it this way. Much cooler to actually see it live, but obviously limited while we're in here. If you do want detailed instruction on what I'm going to show today with this optical tube assembly here, if you want detailed instructions, there are a couple of people online, and I put a link here to Quiv, the Lazy Geek. He's out of Japan, and he actually put this together. So I'm not doing anything new here other than trying to show you can take what he did and then gradually walk and build whichever direction you want to build. So there's a link here, and because again, you're welcome to the slides, but just if you do a Google search, not a Google search, a YouTube search, that's the title of the presentation that goes through the details of what I'm explaining here today. Also, a lot of you are familiar with the Sea Stars. I think there's probably 3 or 4. I think the club might have one now. I know Mike has one. Sonali, you have one. John has one. So, and then you've used one back here. So this is not to knock the Sea Star. The Sea Star is a very good telescope. And it's a very good way to get people interested. It's an EAA, electronically assisted astronomy telescope. But the expandability of it is the part that I'm going to talk about, that if you go a different route, this one, you can't put a different telescope on it. I don't think you can put any type of additions of the telescope. So it is what it is. So when you take the dumbbell nebula, which I will show, I don't know how big it is on the Sea Star, but I can show you a picture of what it is on what I'm going to show. And it's that big in your picture. When you zoom in, all you're doing is pixel blasting. You're not making a better picture. Yes, you got the dumbbell nebula, but maybe you need a larger OTA optical telescope to actually see it. So, and that's where you can grow a little bit here. So I'll show you some of that as we go through. So again, I'm not knocking this Sea Star or the other ones that are out there like it. These are very good for the purpose that is out there. They're very, very interesting. And I guarantee you somewhere in the future, when I can find more pocket change after I stop spending money on the other stuff I'm spending money on,
I will probably wind up with one of these too. So they're very good tools to have in your bag. So the first thing here is find an awesome and affordable telescope. So the one that I have shown here is the one that's buried up in this. This will attach later. That's why all the garbage is on it right now. But this telescope, this OTA, is actually designed as a guide scope. It's a doublet. And what you really want is what's called, if you're doing astrophotography, you want apochromatic. So when I say apochromatic, what I'm talking about is the blues and the reds. But anyway, the light bends differently through the lenses and they don't all focus at the same point. When you have a doublet, which is two lenses up front, it doesn't quite bend to the same point either. But what they do in certain scopes like this one is they use special glass that helps correct that. So they classify this, and I don't know if it's legal to use the term, legal being a soft word here, but I don't know if it's legal to use the term, but they do call this an apochromatic telescope. And you can use it as a regular scope. Now, when you see here, this scope is about, 12 inches long, and depending on how new you are into the hobby, you would think this one's not big enough. But I'm going to show you it is actually big enough depending on what you want to There's a place for this, and then there's a place for larger ones, and there's even a place for, when I say larger ones, I'm talking more magnification, and there's a place for less magnification. So this is a good place to start. And when you look at it, if you go on Amazon and buy this, you get a full kit. And in fact, that full kit, if you look at all the parts there, the green Dixon bar on the bottom there is made to mount right into the mount as a telescope. If you use the piece off to the side, which is right here, on mine, I bought the cheaper one from AliExpress. I bought the ED version instead of the DX version, and I saved like $60 by doing that. And then my fix was using a 3D printer, and all of you know somebody with a 3D printer and somebody else with a 3D printer, you might have one yourself, but this costs almost nothing to print. Okay, so I put a bracket here so that this would fit on a Vixen bar, so I could install it in the mount, because this isn't really made to fit in the mount of a telescope. This is made as a guide scope. So if you had a larger telescope, you could actually use this as the guide scope. I'm using it as the telescope. Okay, so the cost that you run into here, if you go this route, is as cheap as $205 to do this if you can wait like a month and just order from AliExpress and then get help making a mount to clamp it together, and you've got a perfectly working telescope to start with. The other piece that you need in here when you get into astrophotography is the sensor on your camera is flat. So you actually have to flatten the image out, because when it projects normally coming out of a telescope, it's projected curved. And we could show all kinds of pictures, but anyway, just trust me, it comes in curved. And by adding this piece that I show here, and that piece actually fits in right here, and for those that were online here, it's right behind that green thing in the back is where that piece, it slides in place of the eyepiece. And then it also allows me the 55 millimeters that I need to allow this type of camera. This is an astronomy camera, but it allows this type of camera to get focus. And that's what the spacing here, which is adjusted with spacer tubes that you put in here. Okay, so that makes up the telescope. This piece, the company's Skywatcher makes a field flattener. You do not want that field flattener. You want the one that Starzona does, so that you can get the 55 millimeters, so you can get your cameras to focus correctly. So your other options, and I'm going to take the camera off if you were to start with, is a lot of people will use, some people will use just a regular camera lens. Now this is a very popular.
Go ahead and talk.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear him okay?
No. What about people?
No.
I can talk loud, but
No, you don't need to talk loud.
Okay.
You can talk less than loud.
Okay, sorry. I have hearing aids, so sometimes my wife yells at me all the time.
Right here.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, my wife does the same thing to me, so. So anyway, this is called a Rokinon, 135 millimeter f2 lens, but this can be used as a telescope. And to use it as a telescope, and sadly, the parts that I have that I brought with me, this is for my for a Nikon mount, and this is a Canon mount. But there would be a piece like this that I could attach here, and then from here, I could attach this camera, and I have the same thing. There are 3D printable pieces that I would put around this to put on a Vixen plate so that this is here. So this is 135 millimeters versus 242 millimeters for the other one that I showed. So, and this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And that lens is very popular. A lot of people have that
Yeah.
lens.
A lot of telescope people, yes. You'll see this one talked about all the time, and that's why I purchased it. I haven't used it a lot yet, but it's looking pretty good. And to have an f2 or a very fast, do you use yours, Mike, at f2 or f4?
I rarely even use mine, but
Okay.
yeah, I usually leave it open.
Good. Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
worried about
Yeah.
it.
So people really into detail about photography, there's some discussion that f4 actually produces a better image, but that's beyond this discussion here. So, but I can pair it up instead of going with an astronomy camera, I can go with a DLSR, right? So this is just a cheap, you probably can get these for almost nothing off of Facebook. Most of you probably have one in a box in a closet, and you can get the camera to match up with the lens to match up with the camera. And then, so this is Canon. I could have gotten the Nikon version of that, and this piece would have actually fit on the Nikon version. I've got the same piece for Canon. I just grabbed the wrong one when I came out today. So that gives you an option. So when you're looking at building one of these, if you already have the camera, you don't have, the cost that I'm going to show you later, you don't need to add the camera because you have the camera. I can put this camera onto this telescope also. So there are ways to do that just to help bring the cost down a little bit. Anyway, so the cost of that lens coming from Amazon is $409 versus the $205 on this other one. This one's 242 millimeters, a little bit bigger of a scope than this one, bigger being the wrong term, but a little bit more resolution than the 135, but they each have their place. So when we look at the place, ignore the quality of the image, but that's the Veil Nebula. It looks much better than that. I just use the tool Telescopus. Anyway, there's a website online, and I've entered the telescopes that I have and the cameras that I have. And what you're looking at here is what the 135 millimeter camera lens would look like. And then if I flip, this is the 242. So you can actually see that 135 might be a little better than 242 if I want to get the full Veil Nebula. So these scopes, even between the two, there's some things you can or can't get. And then if I look at the Seven Sisters, I'm just showing some examples. That's what the Seven Sisters would look like using the camera lens. And that's what it looks like if you use the 242 millimeter Skywatcher guide scope. So that's the 135 and that's the 242. And then if you look at the Dumbbell Nebula, we had a conversation a little bit earlier with the 242, the largest of the two, the most resolution I have of the two that are here. This really the wrong scope to use to do the Dumbbell Nebula. So that probably would not be on my list of things other than saying I did it, but really wouldn't be on my list of things to spend a lot of time trying to capture that with this equipment. I would want something a little bit bigger. Something bigger that still might fit on this tripod weight-wise, or that may be just the next step up as I get a bigger mount and maybe a bigger scope in the future. So, and then if you look at the M31, this is what the 242, this Skywatcher scope, it fits. So that's a perfect target to go after and take 18 or 20 or 30 hours worth of imaging to try and get a very nice image of the Andromeda Galaxy. So you can do that type of stuff. If you look online, there are websites, show me the best 25 targets for 135 millimeter lens. You can actually look that up and it'll give you a whole bunch of cool stuff to consider looking at to start with. They don't make one for the 242, a list like that for the 242 because it's kind of an odd number. But if you look at the 135, you can kind of compare back and forth. And once you find something, again, you can go to this free website, Telescopus. Am I saying that right? Telescopus, and enter your camera and your scope, and you can just look at the different targets and figure out which one is suitable for the equipment that you have. So as I said, sometimes, just to make it work, because it's cheap, I just got to replace the guide scope mount. I went on and I found, just look online, and this is 3D printed. It took a couple hours in a 3D printer, and then you bolt it on, and then it bolts onto a Vixen plate. And the same thing for this one. I have it printed, but I failed to bring it, but they make rings for this that I could put on a Vixen plate so that this would go here also. So that's just looking online, and that's basically almost a zero. If you ask me, I won't charge you. I mean, it's probably 50 cents worth of plastic, so it's in the noise. So now let's talk about the mounts. So this is the original mount. I think this is probably the most cost-effective mount in the way of it's inexpensive, but it's good enough. Okay, so this mount, if you get the mount itself, which is this with the kit that includes the tripod and this pier extension, it costs $476, and it's an alt-azimuth mount. Okay, at that point, it means when you track a star, if you're just looking visually, it's not a big deal because you go up and over and up and over and up and over and track things. At the same time, because of the rotation of the Earth, your brain will fix it in your head, but the image is actually rotating as you're moving. Okay, if you put this piece in called a wedge, and you update the software on this, it turns it into an equatorial mount. And the basic idea behind an equatorial mount is I'm going to point this thing basically very close to the North Star. And there's tools that help do that. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to point it directly at or pretty close to the North Star. And when it's lined up, it's only rotating. It's not moving left and right. So no matter what star I point at, it'll rotate to another star. But once it's there, it only rotates around the one axis, and it tracks very, very well. Okay, so this now lets you take pictures with long exposures. Your eyeball sees about a 1 second exposure. But talk to anybody who's taken astrophotography, and they're talking anywhere from 30 seconds to minutes to hours. And there are people, I can't remember which one, the Galaxy Hunter website, and they just did 1,080 hours or something on one target, and the image is just incredible on what you can make out of that. So you have to have much better tracking to get upwards of 5 seconds or more. You have to have better tracking. Okay, so that's what this does. Now the total cost here is $476 and $65, so that's $540 to get this set up here with the pier. This pier I stole, it belongs with this scope, costs that much. Now let me talk about my failure. This I connect to via Wi-Fi, and I made a setting change, and the term's called bricked. I bricked. This thing does not talk to my computers, and guess what? Skywatcher, in their infinite wisdom, there is no reset button. There are reset procedures that I've read about and I've tried, but I have yet to figure out how to reset this thing so that I can I had it working, and then I changed the setting, and this stopped working. Okay, so if you're buying new, I'm going to go over to this one. So I told you that this one is about $530 with the wedge. It's cheaper with the plastic. You get to this one, it's a little bit more solid. This is called the Star Adventurer. And the whole setup, like you see here, is about $660. So about 100 and some change. And this is a way better mount than this mount. This one is very sufficient. If I can get it working again, I will definitely use this. I won't sell it. I'll use it to put one of these scopes on, just have out doing something while this one's doing something else. But if you're going to buy new, go to this one, spend a little bit of extra money, because this is a much better mount. Now, both of these carry the same amount of weight, 11 pounds. So, but this one is a much better one. So as I go through my thing here, I will show you the prices if I didn't break this, how much this would cost. And then I'll also show the price on a couple of different things that I changed with this one. So the go-to mount over there is, I said 660, sorry, 619, so it's less than $100 difference between two of these once you add the wedge. Okay, so that has an 11-pound capability. It has a hand controller option. This comes out of my much larger mount, which is also a Skywatcher. I have what's called an EQ6, which will hold 44 pounds. But I can plug this in and I can actually operate that with a hand controller with an index of stars. But what I'm going to show you is so much easier than this that I don't even use the hand controllers unless I absolutely have to. The weight of this this rig that I'm doing, that's an 11, will support up to 11 pounds. This rig that I have that I'm going to show you is 5 pounds, 5 3/4 pounds. So it's very light, well under what that can support. So I can put a larger scope on it if I wanted to. So now you can go any price range you want. I have this is the one I bought when my wife wrecked and I went out and bought at that time an $800 mount. It's now a $1,200 mount. It's a decent mount. I have a hard time interfacing with it. It took a long time to figure it out. But I think it's good to 33 pounds. So that's an option. Again, there's an option below this. There's an option above it. And I'll go to the other one. And again, the ones that I'm showing here, the ones I'm familiar with. So this is my largest mount. It's an EQ6. It'll go up to 44 pounds. It's very, very stable. It's very well supported. And just to show you, again, if you've got the money, these are strain wave, what are called strain wave. These are very accurate. They don't necessarily require counterweights. They're very light. The amount of weight they can carry, as you can see listed here, like the first one, the device weighs, the black one weighs 9.5 pounds. It'll support 22 pounds without a counterweight or 33 pounds with a counterweight. Or you go down to the bottom, a 12 pound, it makes it so easy to maneuver them around and get them outside and get them set up. The heavier they are, it's like, maybe tomorrow. That 2 hours worth of clear skies isn't worth dragging that 40 or 50 pound mount outside and setting it up. Where this one, I can just walk it out, set it up, get it going, go inside. In fact, if the mosquitoes are getting me, I can just sit on the couch and I can operate from the couch. So cameras, again, you can spend free. A lot of people already have DSLRs or can probably find a free DSLR, or cheap ones or expensive ones. And we'll talk a little bit more about cameras, color versus monochrome in a moment. So you might be able to get the camera for free to get started with that route. And then the dedicated astronomy camera, this is a $300 camera that's recommended for this setup. The camera that I have on here is a more expensive camera, but I didn't see any need to go buy the cheaper camera for this demonstration. So, but if you were buying one and on a budget, the one that I have shown here is 678 as an example would be a perfect camera for this rig as a starter rig, and then something you could grow as you start to understand what the different cameras can do for you and whether you do need or don't need that particular camera. So I'm going to assume that this is the 678, although this one is a $900 camera versus a $300 camera. So, okay, so when you have cameras, what we're all used to with a camera, there's a sensor in here. And when you have a regular camera, there's a computer in here that the image hits the sensor. That sensor is in black and white, right? It's various shades of gray. And then the camera knows, using this Bayer filter, that you have blue and red and green. So there's 2 greens, 1 red and 1 blue for every 4 pixels. And it knows how to process that to turn it into a JPEG, because you guys know how to look at JPEGs, right? Instead of gray dingy images. It actually does all that work for you. If you have an astronomy camera, it's got the sensor and it may have a cooling system in it, but it doesn't have all the smarts. All the smarts are in your computer, and the computer then processes, and you can sit down and make your wonderful pictures using a computer. So there's a little bit more work to get a picture out of here, but most of the work is similar. Now, one of the problems if you decide to go color, so color is great if you're doing a planet, because I don't have time to do the blues. And then when Jupiter's spinning in a circle, it moves in 2 or 3 minutes. It's moved so far that it's going to distort. So I don't have time to take all the blues and then all the reds and then all the greens and then stack them together because it would just take too long and Jupiter would have moved too much, right? So in a case like that, I would use a color camera to capture that. But what's happening here is when I'm collecting the red, I'm only getting 1 out of every 4 pixels of red. And when I'm collecting the blue in a regular color camera, whether it's this color camera or this color camera, I'm collecting 2 out of every 4 green. And so I'm not even getting the full resolution of red. I'm only getting 1/4 of the resolution of red against my sensor. So some people will consider using a monochrome camera with filters. So if you have something that doesn't move, that's got brilliant color, you can use filters. So in this extension tube that I have on this camera, that 55 millimeters between the scope itself and the camera, I have the ability to take one of those rings out and put a filter in place. Okay, a filter drawer in place. So I've got this drawer, and if I pull this out, so this would be put in line, and then I can pull the filter out, and then I've got another one of these, and I can put that filter in and continue shooting. So first I shoot reds. Now remember, if it's a monochrome camera with no filter on it, it's, you know, a million shades of gray. It goes from pure black to pure white and a million shades in between, depending on how many bits your camera is, determines how many shades of gray, okay? But when I do the blue, my software understands, I tell it that I'm doing a blue filter, and it'll save those files as one group under one naming standard. And then when I pull this out and put the red in, I tell it, go ahead and start up again. It knows it's red. Now, when I get into my photo editing software, I say, hey, all those shades of gray are really shades of blue. So it's everything from black to pure blue and a million shades in between the blue. And there's a process, which we're not going to get into today, where you stack those to make your final image. And there's software out there that helps you do it. Takes a little bit to learn the software, but it helps you stack. So your consideration here that I'm getting at is you may want to consider a monochrome camera in a lot of cases, especially if you're doing nebula and stuff like that. That may be the better choice to get a monochrome camera, and then use filters to collect a series of red, a series of blue, green, and then of course you can do SHO where you're collecting on hydrogen, sulfur, hydrogen, and oxygen. And you get those brilliant pictures that NASA shows, like the pillars of creation and some of those images. But you're collecting, again, to the camera, whatever light you let in, it's just shades of gray, and then you have to tell it that those shades of gray are really blue or yellow or green or red or whatever color. So the next piece you need, okay, so you purchase this and put a telescope on it, with your phone using an app that this company gives you, and other companies with theirs will give you an app, or with a hand controller, you can turn this into a go-to mount. It will, you point it at the North Star, you get it set, and it goes, and you can say, okay, I want you to point at Jupiter, I want you to point at Andromeda, whatever, it will go. But there's a lot of manual work and a lot of attending to this that you have to do. So what's come up since are little computers, and we're going to start with the cheapest version. This is the one that I originally started with before I bricked this, but this was going to be attached to this scope sitting on here, and this is a Raspberry Pi. This is the cheapest one you can get now that's suitable is $62 for this, plus the power supply, the case, and some software. So you're probably around $150. And you can program this thing that once you get your mount set up, it will track for you. And in fact, some of the software that's out there, you can say, I want you to track this because you know it's high in the sky, and it's always best to look high in the sky versus the horizon. You look through much less atmosphere, right? So you're looking high in the sky. Well, something else in 3 o'clock in the morning is finally up high enough in the sky. You can tell it, hey, after you're done with the first one, move to the second one, and it starts filming that. So you can just set up a program and walk away and come back the next morning, assuming you trust that it's not going to rain on your telescope. For all those times we get surprised by rain, but and that's what you can do with the telescopes. In this particular case, to make it easy, if you're a tinkerer and tinker with this type of stuff, you would enjoy the heck out of trying to figure this out. But oh my God, to teach a group of people that may or may not be tinkerers, and the fact that I was confused, I abandoned this one, which would have been about $150 solution. And I went to this one, which is called an ASI Air Plus, okay? So the ASI Air Plus is this little red box that I've attached to the top of the telescope. Okay, the reason I attached it here, you see all these wires that are hanging, is because I'll put all the wires and everything here, and I'll have one wire come from the ground up to this, and then this feeds power, and everything happens right here. And when it moves around, none of these wires get tangled up, because it'll move around like this. And when the telescope flips over and flips around and goes around this way, I only have one power wire here that I have to make that sure does not get tangled up with any of those paths, versus having this computer down here, and then I'll have 6 or 7 wires come up and it'll be a jumbled mess, right? So when I show you, this is the one, this is a $300 option. This thing is absolutely the easiest thing in the world. It makes it so enjoyable to get this. It may take you a couple of tries to get it set up, but it's not that hard to set up. But it'll do everything, and I'll walk through those. It's got everything from taking pictures to polar alignment to plate solving to all of those types of things, all in this. It will control focusing, so I can put an automatic focuser on this focus wheel. It's a little motor that I connect into here, and it'll say, hey, it looks, the stars aren't round, and it'll dial back and forth. Actually, it'll adjust finer than a human finger can adjust, because we just have big fat fingers on those fine adjustments, and it'll do better than we can do. And it can also sense temperature and adjust when the temperature changes. It says if the temperature changes more than 2 degrees, pause, go refocus, and then continue shooting. Because 2 degrees is enough to start screwing up your glasses, getting thicker and thinner with the temperature changer. The one problem with this particular device is they want you to stay, it's a company called ZWO, and they want you to stay in their ecosystem. With this, I can use either a ZWO camera or a DLSR. I cannot use anybody else's cameras. I can use a Nikon and a Canon or this camera. I can't use the blue astronomy cameras, the QHY, whatever that company is. I can't use any of those. So people fault them for that, but these are very good cameras. But if you want to put a rotator or a filter wheel where it automatically rotates filters, I can only use their system. There is another one of these that has come out that I haven't used yet, where those people basically copied these people, but they let you use whoever's equipment you want. So eventually I'll get one of those, because it would be nice to go find a good review on a good camera, or find a cheap camera for sale somewhere that I can use that might not be a ZWO camera. So that's the one downfall that you'll hear anybody talk about with this type of box. And I'll walk through how it works. If you want to see how this works, you can go, I put a website up here again, there's a guy, I don't remember his name because I'm bad at names, but he's Astro Backyard on YouTube. So go to YouTube and do a search. And then if you look up Deep Sky Astrophotography, How to Step by Step, that's the title. He'll actually walk you through that particular device, and he'll talk about some of the stuff, but he'll actually go end to end, plugging the cables in and everything on the setup there. So if you want to learn a little bit more there, you can. And again, you can ask me. I use this all the time, and I'm surprised I haven't bought, 2 or 3 more, or 2 more of them for my other mounts at this point. Right now, I'm just using the one. I'm kind of waiting and hoping the one that'll use any camera will come out. I want to test that and see if it works as well as this one. So benefits, I went on a website and there was a guy, and I read through these things, and I absolutely 100% agree with the polar alignment routine, which I'll go through here in a second. There's a planetarium, there's a catalog of objects that you can look at. There's the best images for tonight. I'll show you a little bit about that. Does the automatic focuser. If you've got a filter wheel, there's automatic filter wheels that will rotate the different filters in. You can program those in. Dew heaters, I didn't even talk about dew heaters. But there are power plugs, there's 4 power plugs on the side. I use one power plug, and I say give 12 volts to the camera. I can remotely, with my tablet, I can remotely turn the camera off by turning that port off. I can use this next port to do the dew heater, and I can say instead of 12 volts, give it 6 volts. So the dew heater's not as hot if I want to turn the dew heater down. So you got control of all the cameras and stuff that you might have on here. So all the equipment that you have on there going through that. So it's the one power wire coming up, and then I've got all kinds of control. In there, and again, I'll show you, it manages when you take pictures. You want to get rid of the noise, the smudges, the dirt that might be on your sensor. There's biases, bias frames, dark frames. The light frames are your pictures. But anyway, there's a certain pictures that you take. You literally, in some of them, you just put the lens cap on, you make it pitch black, and you take it. It helps get rid of the noise that's on in the sensor itself. It's an electronic piece of equipment that sensor actually has noise, and it helps you get rid of some of the flare that might be on there. Anyway, you can automate that whole thing, and I'll show that to you here in a second. It lets me slew to different targets at different times. I can program, auto program, so I can tell it go from this and then do 300 seconds on that, or 3 hours on that, and 1 hour on that, and 2 hours on that. And just, if I know when the moon sets, I can tell it to turn around and start looking that direction after the moon sets, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, so a whole list of good reasons to use it. If you want to go a little bit more detailed, I mean, you're going to have to sit down and spend some time to figure it out. This is a Windows 11 professional computer. I can do everything Windows 11. It may not be as fast, so if I'm doing a lot of number crunching, but the types of stuff you use to operate a telescope, this has got the Windows 10, Windows 11 interface that you're used to. Okay, some people refer to these as, I don't know if they call them nukes or nucs. Nuc, okay. I do B's, so those are nucleus colonies, we call them nukes. No, so nucs. They call these nucs.
Like Curly in the Three Stooges.
So, so anyway, so these run anywhere from about $150 to $300. This one happens to have a fan in it. If I would go a version earlier, it doesn't have a fan, so if you're worried about a little bit of vibration from the fan, because this is going to be up with your scope, and just a little bit of vibration, if that bothers you, you can get the one without. This one in particular, I know that this one runs at 19 volts. So if you're used to carrying a 12-volt battery, and everything on that thing except this runs at 12 volts, they make a little adapter piece, but you just have to know that I need 19 volts to run this one. If I get the model a little bit earlier, it still runs on 12 volts. So those are some of the things. Now, what I did here is, there's a guy, super technical, he just blows my mind, and then I try and follow him, and I have to go really, really slow and watch the video like 16 times. So I'm working on setting one of these up, and he's got a 3-part series, and again, I put the title of each of his down here at the bottom of the slide, and he actually walks through and tells you why this, why another one, how to hook it up, what software to put on. But this is where you would load, if you've heard of them, things like Nina, PH2, PhD, PD. Yeah, that one.
Push your dummy to
Yeah.
PhD.
Yeah, so anyway, and a lot of that is free software. There's some paid programs that you can add that are very good, and you get complete control of your telescopes, and people have done fantastic things like getting the really big mounts, and then they stick 3 telescopes so they can get red, blue, and green from 3 separate scopes at the same time. So they get 24 hours of recording in an 8-hour night because they've got 3 telescopes going. But anyway, so there are people out there in those communities that are helping people figure that type of stuff out. It's just incredible what you can do. But again, not terribly expensive. Again, this one was $299. This without the software, and the software is free. I think I paid $220 for this one, and the earlier one I think is $160. You can get more expensive, a little bit faster, less expensive, a little bit slower, but you don't need a whole heck of a lot of power because we're not processing on this device. So, but anyway, if you want to see more about that and get blown away, if you're one of those people like me that's just like, wow, the guy who does that, he kind of disappeared off of YouTube, but he's got a presentation on this that's just absolutely incredible on getting that set up and what it can really do. So then if you want to go really big, and I don't have one of these, nor do I plan on getting one, this can do absolutely everything. It doesn't care about what type of camera you have, what kind of filter rotator you have. It will do everything, but you're looking at the different models between $1,500 and $2,700. Why would you be interested? Because while John was talking earlier, I looked up clear skies for this week, and they sucked all the rest of this week. Last week they were wonderful. This week they suck. So there are places around the country. There's one in Texas, the newest one that I've seen in Texas, and this guy is very reasonable, where you can take a telescope and get it all set up with a box like this on a, probably a much, if you're gonna put $2,700 box, you probably have more than a $400 mount, but, and you can send it to him. And in Texas, they have Bortle 1 skies, which are the dark skies, and they have them 240 days a year, right? So you pay the guy $150 and he's got a building that's probably this wide and maybe a little bit longer. He's got 2 buildings now, in fact. And he's got a big giant roof that slides off, and right now he's got several dozen telescopes that people have put there, but you just run them from home. And, you know, because you don't need to touch it after you get it set up. Now, we like to touch our own equipment, but if you care more about taking pictures, and it's about $150, $180 a month to rent a place. So something that's within reach, may not be within reach for everybody, but something that you could do if you move to this level. Of course, other things you're gonna need is power, whether it's portable power. I just use a long extension cord when I'm doing it from my driveway or off on my side yard where it's a little bit darker. I've got Bortle 6 skies where I'm at, but if you bring a battery pack or run off of inverter or off your car or whatever, whatever power, so I didn't include power. I assume people have power figured out or would figure it out themselves.
Hey.
And then to operate it, it's is the interface. So the interface for me for this one here is going to be a tablet, and the interface for this, I'm just going to remote in from a Windows session to here. You can do it from a Mac to Windows. That this has to be Windows 10 or Windows 11 Professional so that I can remote into it. And this, when I paid the $220 for it, it came with Windows 11 Professional. So I'm not paying extra for Windows. It's already installed when I get it. But so anyway, so I didn't include this as a cost because everybody's either got this or a cell phone that they can hook up to that. And then again, the interface here would be a laptop or your home computer or whatever. So optional things that you can get, again, I talked about filters, and this is a filter drawer. The autofocuser that I can attach to the focusing ring here, I can even attach it to the focus ring on this 135 millimeter. The autofocusers come with temperature probes, again, so as the temperature changes, you can tell the computer pause, refocus, continue shooting. Guide scopes. I didn't talk much about guide scope. So guide scope is actually something you really want to consider. So I can get this to line up, and we'll talk about lining this up with the North Star here in a moment. And I can get it to line up using a feature called plate solving. What it does is I basically point it to the North Star, and then I plate solve, and it says, well, move it a little left, move it a little right, and you finally get it lined up, and then it rotates correctly. And it's pretty darn accurate if you spend the time to get it right. But with a guide scope, this is $149 camera. Let me tighten this up before it falls out. And this is, and that camera are almost the same, except this is a little small one plugged into a regular little guide scope that we would look to try and get our big scope lined up. But what I can do with this one, by hooking my USB cord into the USB port on this, is I can pinpoint a star, and that star is lining up a pixel on this sensor. It's a little tiny 5 megapixel sensor, but there's that that's 5 million little dots in the size of about this. And when the camera is going and this is tracking using that mount and everything is going and it's almost perfect, this thing is going to say, hey, you were supposed to be on this pixel and you just moved to that pixel. And it will send a pulse to this computer. And in some cases, you'll actually plug it into the mount, but this computer does it for me, so I'll plug it into this computer. And it'll say, hey, you need to correct because you got to bump me back to my pixel. Because you're not supposed to, as the camera, as the stars move and the camera stays with it, that star should never move off of that pixel. If it moves this way, it adjusts back. If it moves that way, it adjusts back, up or down or whatever. It sends the pulses. And so for $150 plus a guide scope that you would probably have with your OTA, you are able to get much more precision. Oh, sorry.
You got 10 minutes.
Okay. So the good thing is most of the rest of it I can speed through. Hand controllers, just convenient to have if you have them. All I do with this one for the most part is I go left, right, up and down. It's real easy to do here. I don't use, but this would have, if you didn't have the other computers and you just started with this or this would allow you to go enter 31, and it would rotate to the Andromeda Galaxy just by the data that's in here. And then a thumb drive, just because it's a lot easier to pull the thumb drive and move to your big computer than it is to wirelessly try and dump all of your images off of here. Let's see, costs. So all the parts I talked about, again, I'm talking basically about this and that mount. And that's the parts that I list here. The original one with this mount would have been about $1,350. That's with the software and the stuff that I talked about. So bare minimum to get in. But because this one broke and because that's much better, and I believe this is much easier and a better user interface for most people, that one runs $1,600. So for what's that, 200? Yeah, $250 more. You can actually get into a much better mount and a much better controller to start with. And you'll be, unless you're a tinker, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure this out. The comments made online about this is you feel like you're a beta tester. It works, people get it to work, but they always feel like they're beta testers because, it's kind of quirky and you're sending reports back and they're fixing it and you're getting updates. This just works. So let's step through this. This is what the interface here, sorry I can't do it in here, but I took pictures. So this is what the interface looks like. And the couple of things that I have is first thing I need to do is I hit where it says preview up there in the upper right, that little green preview thing up there. And there's a focus if I do the drop down and I come here, and this is where I'll start to focus. And what you can see here with the little squiggly lines going up and down, I'm trying to get the roundest, smallest star, and the computer's actually helping me do that. In fact, I'm doing it manually because the focuser's not hooked up here, but that's the same data that the autofocuser uses and jiggles back and forth to try and get and narrow down to the roundest star that it can get. And so that's the purpose here. So once you get it basically in focus so that there are stars, because the system doesn't work if it can't, if you go way out of focus, all you see is blah. So what we want to get away from is the old polar alignment. That's where you have to get a scope like this. So I'm going to use this one and I pull this piece off, and then usually this is a lot lower to the ground and I'm sitting like this and I'm trying to align and I'm using my little alignment knobs, and there's a little view thing in here, royal pain in the butt. So this is kind of the image that you see inside, and based on the time of year, there's stuff you look up and it tells you where to place the North Star inside of that view as you're looking through it. But a much easier way is to use the software in here. I take my mount and I'll point it north. We're at 42 degrees latitude, so I set this at 42 degrees. I usually take my cell phone with the compass and get this as close to north. And I don't put it, but if you put it too near the electronics, the compass starts to move on your phone. So I kind of get it where it's like pretty close. It doesn't have to be real close, right? And I point it, and then I say go, and it'll snapshot. It'll figure out where it is. It'll rotate 15 degrees, snapshot a second time, rotate, figure out where it is, do it a third time. That's what's happening here. And then all of a sudden it's time to align. When it's time to align, I have an up-down knob here in the back, and I have a left-right here, and these are very fine adjustments. And I set this into an automatic alignment down here at the bottom. I click the auto button and I hit refresh, and every 3 seconds it says, it's telling me how close I am. And you can see to the right, it says I need to go up and to the right. So I adjust the up, I let it do 2 cycles. How close am I? I'm making big adjustments, little adjustments, and then going left and right here until it hits the North Star. And as it does that, see it's moving around, I get the smiley face. At that point, this system believes it's close enough, but you can still see I'm off by 21 seconds. I can tinker around for another 15 minutes, or I can go down to the bottom and hit finish. And it puts a little firework display up and says, great job. And it tells me something that compares me to the rest of the world on how well I did, how fast I did it. So I settled for 21 seconds. And then I come back here and I want to figure out what's good to see. So in this software, tonight's best, I can just go down here. The blue dot that you see on the red lines, that's the time right now, which at the time I did this was 9 o'clock. And I can tell where it is in the horizon, how high it is. And then I can tell what direction it is over to the right. I highlighted M25. If I click the picture, I can get more data about M25. I can come back with it highlighted and then on the right, there's a go-to button. And all of a sudden, it's now slewing over to M25. And then it's going to say, I'm not centered, because it just did a plate solve. And then it tries a second time, a third time, maybe a fourth time. And then finally, it gets it, and it says it's centered, and then it goes back here. And sadly, my pictures of M25 disappeared, so we're gonna be talking about Andromeda, because those pictures did not disappear on me. So assume we looked at Andromeda, now we're on Andromeda. So when I look at Andromeda, I'm gonna go into live view, which is the EAA. So I'm taking a picture, it's 5 seconds. And then I take another one and it stacks, and another one. And if you have a C star, that's what the C star is doing. And it's showing you the picture as it progresses. And I'm not going to show you 200 images, but I'll step through a handful progressing up here as we go. But it's going to stack them live. The nice thing is I also still have the images. So I can go back later and I can stack them in Photoshop and all those other cool tools. Free tools, a lot of them for Photoshop's not free, but all the free tools that are out there to help you stack images. But real quick, this is image number 1. I'm looking at the bottom, image number 2. It's 2 stacked, and then 5 stacked, and then 11 stacked, and 20 stacked, and then 99 stacked, right? So we went from that to that. And if I then, and again, 5 seconds times 100 is 500 seconds. I could have gone hours and done much better. Now, please ignore the color here, because all the color stuff that you would do, that's post-processing stuff. So please ignore this. This is a very beautiful galaxy to look at and a great one to make images of. But what I'm showing you here is just the collection of the data at this point. So again, I'm going to come back to the main menu here. And in this case, I'm actually going to, where it says preview in the upper right, I hit that, there's a drop down, and this is an auto run menu. This is the place that I go in and I say, okay, I want you to do M31. And if I would click the buttons here at the bottom, it would let me set up what my exposure is, what my gain is, everything you would want to set. And then I said, and when you're done with that one, move to M101. And when you're done with that one, move to M8. Move to the moon, or whatever you want to do, you would do here. And then I say run, and then I go inside. Right? So, because there's nothing for me to look at because there's cameras in the way. So the other thing is when I'm producing images, I want to get my dark frames, my bias frames that are necessary to help get rid of some of the noise. And I have set this up so that I can get all of those frames automatically. I don't have to sit there and say, okay, I need you to do this. And then now it's all set up here. I just turn them on and say, please take all those pictures for me. I'm going to go to bed. And then I come back and they're all there. And now when I go stack, the tools will help me draw all the noise out by using these special frames that you take. So stacking we'll save for another day, because that's a whole other topic in itself. But basically what I wanted to show was from a fairly cheap cost. A C star is $550, I think, somewhere. $500. Okay, so getting into this is at this level is more like $1,600. But if you have a camera, knock $300 off of that. If you already have mounts or different tripods that you've collected from somewhere, you don't have to buy these tripods as long as you've got a good sturdy tripod meant to handle this type of equipment. You can add that. Again, in the end, this piece is going to go. Oh, I knocked my computer off. But this piece is going to just basically go on here. I'm going to hit a button there, do the focus. I'm going to do the polar line, and then I'm just going to start slewing from star to star. Another place you can use it, one last thing here before John takes the hook and pulls me off stage here, is I have not tried this yet, but if you're out doing an event with civilians that are coming up and they just want to see stuff, what I've noticed at all the ones that I've been to is somebody's always running up to the telescope and readjusting it and running it and readjusting it. This is a guide scope being used as a telescope, but what if I put this on the side of a much larger telescope? Let all the electronics run that mount, but this is actually attached to a scope in unison with this. So if I can get this tracking and then get the big, you move this around to get it centered on the big telescope, this will move the mount. And then the reason I thought of this is I've got, of grandkids this big, and I'm trying to chase Jupiter across the sky, and every time they look in it, it's, you know, hold on a second, let me get that moved, and they look, and then move it again, they look. You could actually, I believe you could actually use this type of scope and use it on a larger visual scope where you have other people that might want to look like at Zorinsky Park or something like that. So, questions? Do I have time for questions? Two questions. Any questions? Cool. And I ran out of time, so you don't have to listen to me about bees, so that's all good. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Miles. That's a lot of equipment. I see you have Velcro there too.
This is not a lot of equipment. I just had stuff to show you different things. It's a mouth, a scope, a computer, and then extra stuff that you can add over time. So don't let it scare you.
I'll find my share button in there. People online are also clapping. Digital clapping.
You're waking up.
No, I saw them. They were intense. Okay, we're in the business portion of the meeting. We have minutes. As printed in the Stella.
I move that they accept the
Okay.
as printed in the style.
Mike Moderson. Who seconded?
John Johnson.
John Johnson. A motion has been made and seconded to accept the minutes as printed in the Stella. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Carried. All right, I gotta get back to financial stuff, right?
Just tell that guy to flip the page.
Yeah. I'm getting there. Okay. You need to read it?
Okay with me.
Okay, 740.43 in dues, $85 cash donations. So 824.84 income, expenditures, 1824.59 for the Astro Park. 24.59 herbicide, $1,800 to remove the trees. 53 was just the herbicide, or the 24 was the herbicide. We approved that last month. $10.50 lamination for outreach programs. 585.66 was the half of Misrule as part of the convention. So total expenditures of 24,2075. So the account balance of $17,849. 49 cents, excuse me.
No, you said and, that's the period. You were right.
You can hear my voice. Need more water. Well, we went and had a wonderful time at Astro Park last weekend. It was quite the thing. I tell you, the site looked pretty good. We'll probably need to think about servicing the lighthouse for the winter here pretty soon. Probably also need to repaint the piers because they're starting to come down. Maybe we should get some
Two white piers?
yeah. They've got lichen on them too. So I figured if we use like a wheel and then get like tractor paint, maybe that'll be a bit tougher.
Well, I can think of tougher paint.
Okay.
More expensive paint though. I mean, I just used some enamel, I had it around the house.
Yeah. I think it's like the grass clippings are getting thrown into it and it's
You probably want to be white, right?
or yellow, one or the other.
Something, but not black.
Yeah, not black. Something that'll show up at night.
You can do black. You can do black, just have Sonali put glow in the dark tape around them.
Yeah, you could put glow in the dark tape on it, or we just buy glow in the dark paint. That's another option as well.
I think I had some paint that was I think if they had some paint that was black, that was very durable. The little box there for, signing your name, that should be, fixed up so the hornets don't get in it.
Yeah, there was some
There
measurements
was hornets in
taken.
there last time I looked.
There were some measurements taken. The hornets,
When
they were removed.
I removed the one set.
There isn't any more in there, right? He went down with his suit and took them out.
Okay.
So thank you, Mike.
One, no vacation, that's one.
Oh, that's probably that was probably 4.
There's no real changes on old business. Oh, we mentioned STEM Trail Center. That was last Friday. It was a good time. Wonderful. If you haven't seen the STEM Trail Center, it's open. I recommend you folks to go down and take a look at it. It's pretty slick. There is some artwork that was based upon photos by Sonali and John Poole, as well as the interactive light display. So there's the light display, the wall is painted with stars and everything and planets and such. There's a glass plate in front of it, and as you get closer to it, it lights up. So you have to move away from it or become really still for the light to fade away. It's to demonstrate like light pollution. If you're trying to see something and then it goes away, you have to be still and not have as much light. So that's how that works. We do have some new business I want to talk about. Can we table these for next time? Thank you. All right, so there are some proposed bylaw changes for Miserable. These two changes are region chairing of command is as follows: chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, regional representative, immediate past chair, immediate past vice chair. Per Missouri statutes, only elected executive officers can conduct business at any meeting. The regional chair is the CEO of the region and plans the agenda for and presides over the executive council, regional council, and year-end business meetings. Yeah.
Self-serving.
The other item added was signed student national award candidate submission forms. As well as regional vice chair can do that. Same with the regional representative component.
What's going on?
Don't think there were any other changes. There's one more change about the bank account. National treasurer will be added to the bank account and must receive monthly statements as well as the year-end balance statements. And then standing resolution 3, which was the yearly IDA donation, has been repealed. I don't know why this says enacted via electronic means. I don't know what that means. That was a vote at Miserable, I believe. So I don't know why that would be separate than the minutes of the produced meeting. Those are the proposed changes, folks. And I received this last night, and there's supposed to be a vote on Monday, which is not a lot of time.
What's that one of the talking about?
So most people in here are saying, so?
It's quite a bit of a change to say that the regional chair is now gonna head up everything and runs the plans, the agendas for all. That's normally the chair. So I'm not regional chair it says, I'm sorry. That would be Val, not regional representative, which is fine. But this doesn't say who would run it in their stead if they were not available.
Because there is no regional chair.
We currently do not have a regional chair. I found that out earlier tonight.
So nobody's gonna do the job.
I'm sure there's a regional chair. Half a dozen people in here are saying, what are you talking about?
So the Mid-States region of the Astronomical League is Arkansas, Missouri, Kansas, the northern part of Tulsa, and Nebraska. Those 5 components make up our region. It's sort of like a chapter, there's several chapters around the country for their regional. It just so happens that the Mid-States region is based out of Missouri, which is where the Astronomical League is based out of. So a lot of the rules and regulations around the Astronomical League and how they operate as a nonprofit are based upon that state. Traditionally, there's been a lot of people in Missouri who also run the Astronomical League. So there's a lot of crossover because it's like the same region and such. We ratified the bylaws a number of years ago. It was in, at the June 2023 Missouri, we ratified this. So they're proposing changes already. I just want to be transparent and letting you know what that is. Any concerns?
What are the reason they're proposing changes?
We haven't been told that.
We haven't been told that. I was just told that there was a vote.
I think we need to find that out.
I think it's best that we probably send an email and asking who made the changes and who's on the committee.
And what was the purpose of the changes? What's the rationale behind it?
Yeah, that too.
What was the previous one that this, was that sentence added? Is that?
Those sentences are added.
Yeah, the blue there.
The blue, these are been added in. The only removal was that standing resolution 3, which originally was around a donation to the International Dark Sky Association. And since the name change, people thought that it wasn't right to have it listed as IDA in there. And so they decided to remove it, rather than discuss doing a new donation to Dark Sky International.
Right, and I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I kind of do too.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with getting rid of donating to IDA as long as they substitute darksky.org.
There was a part of Standing Resolution 3 that also mentioned an issue with Missouri in 2007 that was canceled, which necessitated this in Omaha, which necessitated them to have a separate business meeting of which that IDA vote came up. At the June 2024 Mid-States Region of the Astronomical League Convention, which OAS hosted, we put forward a motion to remove or make a change to the sentence that said Omaha to replace it with 2007. Instead, they have just simply removed the entire Standing Resolution 3. Therefore, it essentially covers what we requested. So I'm just want to be transparent about all of this.
Whether the organization should or can donate to the Dark Sky International is still an open question.
Yeah, well, if we were to go to a meeting next year and propose it and push it as a motion. But the problem is, it says that the agenda is set by the vice chair. Now, in our meetings, people can, and they do, motion something in an open forum.
Can you object to that and say that it should also, the agenda can be proposed by different members and voted on at meetings?
I think that if we say that the agenda should be published and there should be a provision that says you must accept motions from the floor to force it.
This is being written by one person, you know, and in no way represents the member clubs that are in it, the 2,000 people that are part of Mid-States Astronomical League.
That's possible. So
it's more than possible.
So we don't get a vote on this? Not even.
We have a vote.
One vote.
As a club, one vote. Yes. There needs to be 9 to have a quorum to accept the vote.
9 of the 20.
9 of the 20-some clubs
In the Missouri.
in the Mid-States region. And then sometimes there's not a lot of clubs that show up for these meetings. So they want as many people there as they can get. I'm just being transparent and putting this out there.
So what do you think, John, since you're closer to it than any of us in the room?
I'm divided because my request is being fulfilled. Because I put the motion in and it should have been it should have been taken care of anyway. It shouldn't be a separate vote because at Misrule, the convention, we voted for it and everybody in the room passed it. Why it has to be a separate vote, I don't know why.
And are we talking about that chain of command thing? Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking,
It's probably related to that.
or are we talking about the IDA versus?
If you were to check the minutes for the convention, it's recorded in there that we made the motion was accepted. Someone on the executive council, when emailing me, stated that they cannot make the change, that the executive council has to make the change.
He's
But-
actually showing which ones.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, show them, show us which one we're talking about.
so it's gone. Standing resolution 3 is gone.
Okay, so, and that was the Omaha.
That was the Omaha replaced with 2007.
And did that get approved and it's?
We approved it at the Misrule convention in,
But now they're wiping out the entirety of the state of entries, so our motion
Is
would be moot.
Oh, okay.
Assuming if
Okay.
this went
Yeah.
through.
Okay, because it was section 3, is that? what it was?
yeah, standing resolution 3 is what it was.
Yes, and now that just doesn't exist here.
It doesn't exist.
Okay.
I guess I would suggest to go through each change individually and ask why we're making this change
Yeah.
and then vote on them individually
Yeah,
and not
me
as a
too.
batch.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And
Take
I'd
them
like.
line by line and approve them.
Yeah, and I think you said it, but what was the reason for these changes?
Right.
Yeah,
What's
we-
your rationale?
Yeah, why?
Why are we making these changes?
Mine's such.
And especially, why are we doing some things that we already supposedly got
Yep.
approved at the Misrule here in Omaha?
Why wasn't there discussion to?
So that would be my thought.
Okay. Thank you. I know this is all thrilling stuff for everybody.
And then, John, if you don't like it, just go ahead and pull the trigger.
You trust your.
We trust your judgment.
You can vote against it.
Only you knew. But it's not really something that we have to have a motion on or anything like that. This is just
You're just
something to
information.
discuss with the organization.
Proxy?
No?
No, you're talking to them.
Okay,
We suggested Bill could be the proxy.
that's who I was gonna actually ask too. But,
Way to go.
Put on
okay,
your Helen hat and then tell us
Yeah.
to go.
yes, sir.
So if there's not a quorum, what happens?
No voting.
There's no vote.
Everybody logs off and goes about their lives.
And they try to schedule another one.
And
That's-
life is much. Eventually, it's not hard to get 7.
There's no goal.
It's supposed to be 9.
I don't care. It's not hard to get 9.
Okay,
And it's not hard to get everybody to vote yes.
yes, when presented in a room full of people, when you vote, most people vote yes. Being up here, I've seen it.
Especially if it drags on, they just want to get it over.
And they wanna get out, I gotta go home, I gotta go to the bar.
What's the dessert?
Is that the real secret why we put this at the end?
Good.
You have something.
We got something, about 10 minutes.
Okay,
I know.
Are you taking care of, John?
yeah.
Yeah.
I just got some wordsmithing to do tomorrow. And then rewrite it 4 more times.
Been there, done that. Believe it or not, been there.
Yeah. Are you gonna talk to me? Do you need me to sit down?
No, so more outreach, because we need more outreach, right?
Oh, more outreach.
He needs the mic.
So we have the opportunity to be part of the Luminarium Space Week again this year.
Starting route to Backlot Tap House.
And so they want to actually do a couple different weeks. So they want to do like the 26th and be the 28th. The 26th would be the night light, and then the 28th would be a Saturday, so it'd actually be the normal day shift. And then I think the next 2 weekends after that, culminating in the October, whatever it is for the actual Space Week, the second week of October. So there'd be 6 events potentially. We, Austin and Andrew and myself have been kind of working on some interesting ideas for some museum exhibit type pieces. Who knows what a cloud chamber is? So we would like to build a cloud chamber to do cosmic ray detection. Live and in person and be able to visualize all the little subatomic particles bouncing through your body at all times of day and night. And we have a little idea for a spectrometry kind of thing to show how wavelengths work, because the idea is to tie in our stuff into space, but also into some of their existing exhibits. If you've ever been there, they have a whole section on light and color. And so I think that would be an interesting thing. We can talk about how we use those wavelengths of light to do astronomy, with the things like Austin's doing, and discovering exoplanets and all these other things that we use the color of light for. And maybe a couple other ideas that we have, and if anybody has an idea that they would like to put forward. And the dark sky, we're gonna do a dark sky one
I'm
with
building a dark sky lighting rig.
different types of boards or different type of lights and stuff. Do you have building materials, you want like a backboard?
Maybe.
But what proper lighting should.
So that said,
Yeah.
we'd like to build some of these devices. We'd like to use outreach funds for it, and so I'd like to move to apply a $500 budget to building out some of these exhibits from the outreach funds. And that's my motion.
Or second.
Or every discussion, I guess, first, before we don't have to jump right into the yes voting as you just talked about. That's why you wait till 5 minutes before the end of the meeting. You always-
We like Israel, so.
So,
Wait, was that $500 you said?
yeah, I'd like to have a budget of $500 to generate some of these things. These will be things that will exist beyond the use at the Lumiere. We will keep them. The cloud chamber thing is really cool. It's basically you take a fish tank, although we're gonna make maybe something a little nicer. You have a clear tank enclosure. You take dry ice down to the bottom, and you put a piece of metal on top of that, and you cover it with alcohol. And then you add some little alcohol warmers to the top. The alcohol evaporates, is drawn down to the very, very cold dry ice, like negative, 32-degree metal plate temperature, where it tries to condense back down. But it takes an extra surge of energy to get that last little bit from vapor to liquid. And in the interim, you get this super saturated layer of vapor. And as the atomic particles, muons or whatever they are, go through that layer of supersaturated vapor, it causes the seed of condensation to spark, and you'll actually see the trails of these subatomic particles. Just with your eyes, you can watch all these things move. And then if you take, the radioactive material out of a smoke detector or a thorianated welding rod, you can put those in there and watch, the stuff shoot off from them.
Pullman lamp mantles are good for that too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they contain thorium.
There you go. I've got my father-in-law is sending me a welding rod. I'm gonna cut up into some pieces. But, yeah, anyways,
Gavel, please.
motion has been made.
I seconded. Motion is on the floor and seconded to use $500 of the outreach funds to create outreach interactive devices. I'm just gonna make it short that
Very
way.
good way of saying it.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No, I like that idea.
Finally got one through.
Educating people, what a win.
All right. Bill, I already wrote your name down. Is there a second to adjourn the meeting?
No, that's not a second.
What? You have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Any interest in cutting more trees?
Hell yeah.
Plus I got the estimates,
For the topping part?
I'm sorry. There was an estimate to do more tree cutting, like the big tree.
Not trees.
How much?
The top of the trees, which means that they would have to climb up the tree to take the tops of the tree down.
feet off the top.
Yeah. How much was it?
Okay with me. It was $3,200 to haul the stuff out too. And that was in two areas, actually.
Okay, how much was it just to not haul it out?
28.
28.
And then to haul it out.
$400 to haul it out? Yeah, that's a bargain. isn't it?
It's a bargain.
Yeah. Well, if you got people willing to work, we could always make a pile and burn them.
Yeah, that's a big question.
But the trick is, it's a fair amount of work.
Yeah, you also
We could actually cut them ourselves if we wanted to, probably the ladder because.
Um,
It's not burned down Astro Park.
3 minutes.
And we can postpone that for another time.
I think we can postpone until next month.
Okay, to me, it's time to think about it.
Oh, yeah. Good gosh, I gotta say
I
that.
think it's good to think about things.
Thank you for the reminder, Kelly. Elections are next month. So if you like your folks or you want to run for a position, you can nominate yourself or somebody else. So next October,
I'll nominate. Kelly for president.
we're looking, yeah, that was a power struggle. So if you want to be vice president, now's the time.
Joe, you still online?
Joe's still online.
How long are terms?
It's a year.
Forever.
Forever.
Term limit is death.
Tom seconded to adjourn the meeting? Okay.
For anyone new, several of us go to the Backlot Tap House in Exarban after this for socialization and libation. Not necessarily in that order.
We still haven't adjourned the meeting though.
Motion is made and seconded to adjourn the meeting, business meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays?
Day.
Too late.
Look at that.
I want to say thanks to everybody who joined online remotely and everybody who came tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, you're gonna.